Hi.
Herzlich willkommen bei Sales Layer, dem
Hello. I just check my voice first. We're gonna start very soon. Okay. YouTube. Every time I have to check my voice first. Should be okay. What?
Were really surprised when they saw.
I think that's okay. Hello. Hi. Okay. Let's start my English program. Hi everyone, welcome to Insights with Lily Zhang. Today it's my property talk, Lily's property talk, this special program. Normally I do my property talk probably every fortnightly on Friday, but yeah, you probably already seen the background. I've been to Bavaria. I've been to Freising, a little town called Freising. It's north of Munich. And I had a couple of days there, and I've got this. Before I talk about property, actually, it's Germany's. This week is very good weather, and you can see it's supposed to be autumn, but quite warm and very good weather. And if you haven't, I think everybody know Germany is the country of beer. And behind me is a background. I've been to the hops field. Have you heard of hops? Hops? Actually, I don't drink much beer, but hops is quite an interesting thing, and amazing how tall they are. I think I think it's about 5 to 6 meters tall, and large field in Munich, in Bavaria. I think that's very popular, and I can see. Of course, we all know this year there's no Oktoberfest, the beer festival in Munich. Germans are very unhappy about that. They get quite jealous when they see in Qingdao, in China, they have the Oktoberfest. So Germans this year not very happy about it. And this is hops. Have you seen hops? This I haven't seen that before. See, this is the flower. Hops is a flower. Is that a flower, or it looks, because it's green? Can you see? Can you see? It's a quite pretty flower, and actually smell. This is when it's dry. It's almost dry now. When it's dry, they add this to beer, and which it gives beer the special flavor and taste, just a little bit. So that's almost like a spice. That's a big ingredient for beer making, and smells quite unusual for me. It doesn't smell like flowers, smell more like spice. So I really enjoy that. So this give people, if you're in Australia, New Zealand, or even in China. I've just done my Chinese program on German property, and today I'm going to talk about German property too. But I think this is quite that's why I really love Germany. This country, it's so green, and it's a very highly developed industrial country, but when you live in Germany, you see everywhere is green. It's just everywhere. It's like when I first arrived in Germany in 2018, I just wondering, wow, it's everywhere is forest, field, green field, very green, very clean country, and I didn't see any factories or industries for quite a long time. So that's why I quite like Germany, this country. It's just the infrastructure is perfect, very good road. Yeah, if you sing I still can smell the hops. Wow, it's really smells like beer. Oh, no wonder, because it's hops is a family of cannabis. Actually, it's well, it's not a drug, but beer. Yes. Before I talk about property, because I visit the little town Freising. That little town. Of course, there are so many little towns in Germany. That little town is famous for its beer. Also, that little town was established by monks, and the most famous thing in Freising is the still operating brewery. I didn't have a chance to visit that because that was a hot day. I didn't have enough time in Freising. But next time, definitely I have to visit that. The still operating, the world's oldest operating brewery. I think it was established by monks in 11th century. So it's got about 1,000 years of history. So when you visit Bavaria, visit Munich, just Freising is a good place to visit. And for me to learn where does beer got its flavor or spice, and just to see the flower. I mean, the smells just I think it smells like beer. So that's very interesting. I highly recommend if you go to Bavaria, visit Freising, and especially visit that. Of course, try that beer. The beer tastes so good. It's got the flavor of combination of. I try a little bit. Banana and citron, lime. It's just so refreshing. Of course, if you are in Germany, you definitely will try beer. Back to this today, yeah, that's my impression of Germany. That's why I like this country. It's got great lifestyle, but of course, Germans got they themselves. You'll hear Germans talk about politics all the time, and lots of German criticize their kind of lefty government. Yeah, I think although I'm still feels like because I don't deal with the German bureaucracy a lot, and so to me it's a beautiful country, and Germans are I think Germans are nice too. Anyway, and today I'm going to talk about German property because I just feel it's not just I feel, it's all the statistics showing German property bouncing back very. I don't even call that bouncing back because it's been strong for many years, and even for the coronavirus, German property market still keeping strong. That's why today I'll say I'm going to talk about the reason why German property market keeps strong amid a coronavirus, this kind of crisis, and also I can see the great potential of investing German property market. Although the price already quite high, but I see the potential still huge. This time, just one, because German property market didn't really suffer much. When I check German DAX, that's their share market, index. And two companies really stand out. One is called Vonovia, my German. Another one is Deutsche Wohnung. Both are property company. These two companies really stand out because their share price make historically new high during and after coronaviruses. So this is quite outstanding. Imagine, and those two companies, they are the new member of the 30 index companies of German share market, which is DAX, and Lufthansa, the airline, fall out of that. So that this is just showing German property companies doing very well during and after coronavirus, and the German property prices keep going up this year. Like I've checked the numbers, apartments price going up 7.4%, and houses going up more 9.2% annually. So the price didn't fall. The market is very strong, and also after I think Germany come out of lockdown in May, and the demand for purchasing properties tripled. That means the market is going stronger. Of course, I think traditionally Germany is not a big fan of property market, because I think most Germans they do buy property, and they buy property for life. They don't really speculators. They live in their property. Also, they probably will pass on to their children and grandchildren. So property investment, I think most Germans actually they prefer rent before, because for many years the rents are very low, and for many years, I can still smell my hands is full of the hops flavor, and also smells like beer. Okay, back to property. So traditionally Germans are not big property investors, and they have a very large. Most of the population they prefer to rent instead of buying. But I think for the recent 10 years, meaning more and more people start purchasing property. Also, the property market, I think the price has been doubled. It's nothing unusual. I come from Australia and New Zealand. In Australia and New Zealand, we have a saying like the property price long-term property price will double every 7 to 10 years. In Germany, I can see it's already started. There are all sorts of reasons. That's why today I'm going to talk about the major reasons. And in future, actually, I've been talking to quite a lot of German property industry people, including agents, developers, investors. So in future, I'm going to invite more people to join me to discuss German property market. As I can see, the major, when you're talking about property, it's all about location. That's the number one rule. But Germany, I think, is that important? Of course, it's important. There are 7 cities. Germany, they don't have. You don't see high skyscrapers in Germany, because the only ones got high skyscrapers in Germany is Frankfurt, and even in Frankfurt, it's only a couple of buildings. When you look at so in Germany, I think most of them are houses and low-rise apartments, and there are four major cities with population more than 1 million is Berlin, Hamburg, Munich, and Frankfurt. Actually, I think Frankfurt's only got 750,000, but there are probably more people, immigrants into Frankfurt too. So these 4 in Germany, they are the large-scale, biggest cities. And the property price are the highest in these 4 cities. Also, other cities like Stuttgart, Cologne, and Düsseldorf. That's another 3 property cities with high property price. Stuttgart, that's the Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, all the car industry's headquarters there. Berlin now is the new trendy center of Europe. So many young people going there, many Europeans going there, and many startups companies going there. Munich traditionally is very good. Munich is a nice city. Munich's of course got BMW there and Audi. Out of Munich, it's a Bavaria. Bavaria is very. It's I think that's the richest state in Germany. So in Germany, there are 7 cities got the highest property price. But to me, I think Germany is a very nice country. And personally, if I don't have to buy in big city, if I work in big city, I really prefer the small towns, smaller cities of Germany. And the price, I think, is much better. The potential is much better. So my advice, for investor, if you're looking for high rent return, probably big city is about, of course, the price is higher too. But for the value for money, I prefer countryside, little towns and smaller cities out of those bigger cities. But I think for German property market doing well, there are a couple of reasons. Number one is we're talking about when we look at property, we always look at the macro economy, about the country, the city, and the economic and political environment. Of course, Germany is the center or the engine of European Union. And so there are lots of Europeans, and Germany has a very good economy for the last 20 years. We can see Germany's unemployment rate is about 5%. It's very low in Europe, compared with some European countries like Spain, Greece. I think their youth unemployment sometimes, I think, reaching like 25 to 50%. So you see lots of Europeans going to Germany. So just now I talked about the big environment, economic and politically, Germany is a very good, stable country. On the other hand, I think another big factor is Brexit. Brexit, because your EU used to be like 3 big countries, like Britain, France, and Germany. They kind of 3 centers. But because of Brexit, lots of business, because the uncertainty created by Brexit, lots of British companies, international companies, they probably before they headquartered in London. Now, because of the Brexit, they have to move to Germany. EU is a very big, it's the second biggest market economy in the world, just behind United States. So it's got 500 million, more than 500 million people. So that's more than America and Canada, and probably plus Australia and New Zealand end up together. So EU is a big market out of the Western market. So that's why European Central Bank, the headquarters of European Central Bank, moved to Frankfurt, and lots of international, British and international companies, business and professionals they have to move to Europe, especially they chose Germany. And that's why we can see a large inflow of population. When you see for property, there are two major factors when we look at macro business, but macro environment. Number one is political and economical development, stability. Another large factor is population growth. So wherever you see population growth, the property market will definitely go up. So I can see that's why coronavirus doesn't even dampen the property market in Germany. And when we talk about coronavirus, maybe I think this time coronavirus actually make Germany's property market even getting better, because reason is obvious. Compared with most of the countries, the Germany's strategy on the pandemic or control of the pandemic is really among the top countries in the world. I think Israel, the Israeli, some agent did a survey, just say, they talk about Israel is the best country about control the pandemic. But Israel just get into second wave lockdown. That's not very good. And Israel is the first country in the world get into second time nationwide lockdown. So Israel now is out of the best performed country. And then the second number two was Germany. So actually at the moment, European country, even the ones suffer the worst at the beginning, like Italy, Spain, we heard the talk about second wave, but I think it's we don't see that there at the moment. So I think Germany did quite well because, of course, it's strong medical system and strong economy. Also, the strategy German government implied and the measures the government implied. Also, of course, Germans they follow rules. That's why we can see Germany probably is one of the few countries they get out of this pandemic quite well, and the German economy, of course, suffer. We can't say because there are quite a lot of industries suffer a lot, like Lufthansa, the airlines, retails, restaurants, hospitality industry, so suffer a lot. But like I already talk about that at the beginning, the real estate industry doing really well. I think when people lock down at home, they have to stay at home, they probably recognize, rather than, if you have to lock down, you prefer to have your own property, prefer your own home, instead of renting or share the property with another 3 or 4 strangers. I think that explains why the surge of demand after the lockdown for German properties. And there are other factors, of course. I think when I look at the property market, you always look at the bigger environment, the political, economical environment of that country or even area. And the next big thing is population growth. Any country you see, any area you see population growth, I bet the property price will go up. Third is of course, the big factor is the interest rate. We all know in Europe, they have almost a negative interest rate for quite a while. So I think, and in Germany, it's pretty good because they can fix. I'm from Australia and New Zealand. We can, when we talk about fixed interest, the banks give you 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years to choose from. Yeah, if you get a fixed interest for 5 years, that's really good. But in Germany, but they're probably in Europe as well, they can fix at the moment. For example, the interest rate is so low. It's about at the moment it's about 2%, 2.5%, and they can fix the interest rate for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So imagine you can fix your interest rate at 2%, 2.5% for 10 years, 20 years. Oh my God. That's just almost like free money. 2% interest rate is nothing. That's why, and also I don't see the interest rate going up because reasons very obvious. The pandemic, the worldwide economic crisis, debt crisis, whatever. So the interest rate in Europe, in Germany, I can predict will stay low for a long time. And on the other hand, if you fix your interest rate at 2% for 10 years, 20 years, who cares? Yes. So the low interest rate is a very good factor, of course. Just, these days, where do you put your money? I don't think share market is good for average investors. Also, it's a dangerous time to. I consider it's a dangerous time to invest in share market at the moment because the uncertainties of financial market and economy, world economy. But property market, I always say long term, it's always go up. Yeah, in good countries. Yeah, I'm not saying. And also another thing about the pandemic. The pandemic, I think, basically just divide the world into two large parts. I think good countries become better, and but some developing countries or third world countries, they're getting worse because they get hit hard by all sorts of factors: pandemic, economic crisis, debt crisis, and they even have social crisis. Society, they get into. We can see many countries, especially South America. We see the protest in Belarus and also in Russia. And many people ask me about China. I'll say China actually is in big trouble. China's. Well, today I'm talking about Germany. I'm not going to talk about China too much, but I think just briefly, personally, I know China will go backwards dramatically. Politically, economically, all field will go backwards. The trade war, technology war, and I'm not going to talk about any real hot war. Yeah, I definitely think the decoupling between China and America is already happening and will definitely happen. And I surely think Europe is going to getting stronger because many people think European Union will collapse, the EU. Well, of course, the EU will collapse, the Euro will collapse, but EU's been through so many crises. Been through the EU debt crisis, global crisis, and refugee crisis. This time, the pandemic crisis. Also, of course, the economy is not good either. The economy is not good, not just for EU. I think it's worldwide. But I think EU actually will grow stronger because after this, I think people already see basically the EU member countries, they become closer. Yeah, they I would like to see the world leading by EU and America rather than America and China. Reasons, I'm not going to talk too much about politics, but My personal opinion, I think America and EU is going to lead the world, the post-pandemic world, politically, economically, and for my favorite part is philosophically, ideologically, put it that way. For a foreigner, and I think I like German property the best, is they don't have any restrictions for foreign investors. Like I know in this is ridiculous for New Zealand. In New Zealand, they have a strict, quite a lot of restrictions on foreign investor. You have to go like I did a program with the New Zealand agent. I think two weeks ago. Yeah, that's you can't buy houses in New Zealand. You can only buy apartments. So that's what's it? Anyway, for the details about New Zealand property, I already done a program. But I think this is ridiculous. New Zealand is such a small country, and foreign investors is not large. Of course, every country they are free to have their own policy. And Australia have, I think, also have restrictions on foreign investment. So Germany, anybody can buy property, no restrictions. Foreigners, no restrictions. And this is good part. Also, another part is they can borrow money even as a foreign investor. You can borrow money from Deutsche banks, like German banks. This is much better than, because I've done investment seminars in Australia to invest in for investors interested in United States properties. It's very difficult to borrow money from American banks, almost impossible. So if you want to purchase, if foreigner wants to purchase property in America, basically you have to put up cash. So I think that's a big drawback, because the beauty of investing in property is you can use the leverage, you can finance to purchase the property. So in Germany, there's no restriction for foreigners to buy property. You can borrow money up to, for foreigners, I think up to 70%. Up to 70% you can borrow. So that's pretty good. But if you're a German, or if you work in Germany, if you have German income, local income, some people can borrow up to 100%. So that's pretty good finance, right? But German banks, they're quite conservative. Oh, you can understand the whole Germans are very conservative, but German banks, they're quite conservative too. If you want to buy a most interesting thing. That's so interesting. German banks, they actually sell properties. So if you most of the banks, if you go to, I from New Zealand and Australia, we have our agent, we have display windows for properties. But if you go to a German bank, most German bank, you can see they're selling properties on their bank's window. They displays properties for sale. And German friends told me, they have in German banks, most German banks, they have a property department specialized on selling properties. So I think that's pretty cool. You can organize your finance in the bank. You can buy property from the bank. I think how many Australian banks should try to do something about that. So that's pretty cool. But there are some in future I'm going to talk about the process of how you even do with renovations in Germany. But I think there are some costs. Actually, the cost is not low for property purchasing in Germany. Average, as a buyer, doesn't matter if you're a foreigner or German, as a buyer, you pay up to like 12 to 15% extra cost just to purchase the property. on top of the price. So that's the 12 to 15% normally. That's like 4 to 6%. That's real estate agents commission. Their real estate agents pretty cool. They charge commission both sides. They charge commission from the seller and they charge commission from the buyer. That's pretty good. And so back to the buyer side. If you want to buy a property in Germany, you pay 4 to 6%. That's the real estate agent's commission, and they have stamp duty. That's the purchase. Well, they call it. There's a German words for that. There's I think every state they have their own stamp duty rate. It's a bit like Australia. New Zealand is pretty good. There's no stamp duty in New Zealand, so that's a good part. So that's why when you invest in property, every country have their good and bad side. I think the stamp duty in Germany, every state varies, but generally it's about 4 to 6%, and you gotta pay the legal fees and registration fee. But that's common in the country. You gotta pay lawyers settlement fee and document fee and the registration, we call that entitled. They have similar things entitled, and I think their system is quite similar to Australia and New Zealand. They have generally they have freehold, like they have apartment and houses. I haven't seen they've got leasehold. Actually, in Australia, leasehold property is not common either. I haven't seen much leasehold property in Germany. So in Germany, majority or maybe all of that freehold. So that's pretty good, and their title system is very similar. They have the owners and finance if you have a mortgage. So the title paper, they call their registration system, is very similar. But one thing is, seems in German property market, their privacy law is more protected. I think in New Zealand and Australia, we can check their purchasing history, the price history. So when you can see there's if you're interested in a property, you can see the transaction history of their property. But in Germany, you don't see. There's no transaction history. And even get valuation in Germany is a little bit. You can, of course, they do have certified valuer, and they're not some. I don't think they are independent valuers, because I've got a real estate agent friend, and himself he's a valuer too, or he's a valuer who can sell, who can be a real estate agent. So it's not, unlike New Zealand or Australia, it's not independent valuer. Also the banks, this is similar. Banks got their own valuer before. This is compulsory. Before the bank give you a loan, the bank's valuer will do a valuation on your property. That's common sense. So that's very similar. And in Germany, I think they do have a real estate agents association, and they have strict rules. But on the other hand, they don't have a specific real estate law regulate real estate agents. So as long as I heard, as far as I know, seems anybody can sell the real estate. They don't have to be an agent, as long as you can negotiate a commission or something like that. And there are quite a lot of private sales too. So that's some kind of I need to, in future I need to find out how they pay their deposit. That's how do they pay their agent? But Germans, they stuck to their contract. So, and also that's something quite different. I heard I haven't done this myself. When you purchase a property, the buyer and the seller, they just they present together face to face and sign a contract. So this is quite different compared to New Zealand and Australia. Because we all know buyers and sellers in Australia and New Zealand, you don't see each other. That's all agent. Both sides, they get the deal done. So that's quite different in Germany. That's what I'm going to talk about today. So I already talked about why German property market stays strong during and after the pandemic, and also I believe for future, I think in near future or even further down the track, I'll see German property market going well. Because even now, I think since 2015 or till now, the price in Germany already doubled, especially big cities like Berlin and Munich. It's quite expensive. But compare with I think in Germans' income to property price ratio is still pretty low, even in Euro standard. Compared with Australia, I think that's even much better. So, although the price is still already quite high, but I think the value to price ratio is still pretty good. And my suggestion really is you don't have to go to those big cities. I think the prices in smaller cities, smaller towns, even some villages. I love German villages. It's just most of the German villages look like medieval time, the fairy tale towns. They got beautiful castles and so green. So you got fresh air, and infrastructures in Germany is very good. So, and I think for me it's surprising. Like for example, if you just pay like 200,000 or 300,000 in Germany, you can buy a house. I'm not talking about those big cities. In a house with like 7 or 8 rooms, that's pretty good. Like that price in Australia, that's about Australia $500,000 Australian dollars. You can buy a 3-bedroom house in a very average area or below average area. And in Germany, that price, you can find a house with 7 or 8 bedrooms and in a pretty good area. It's pretty good now. I mean, a reasonable town, reasonable village, and with good infrastructure and transport system. So that's I think it's really good value. So my advice will be avoid those big cities. Yeah, it's just the price is too high in return, because Germany governments have some policy. They set up the ceilings for rent, and you can't increase your rent very easily. But these days, I think privately, they can negotiate rent. That's why in Berlin it's very hard to find a rent. I still remember when I first go to Berlin, so how hard to find a renting apartment. But I think my strategy will be really go out of those big cities, go to smaller towns, smaller cities with good infrastructure, and looking for. I'm not interested in the new houses. Actually, I'm more interested in older houses. You can do it up. I think the value is pretty good, and the potential for the capital gain is pretty good. Yeah, and also they have some good taxation. I think Germans, if you live in your house for 3 years and then sell, you don't pay. There's no capital gain tax. So that's 3 years. That's easy. And for investing, if you don't live in the property, for investing after 10 years, if you sell, there's no capital gain tax. I think that's still pretty good. Because for me, property investing should always be long term. 10 years is minimum, so it shouldn't be. It's tax free. Germany is the Germans pay pretty high tax. Sometimes up to like 50 to 60% or 50 to 55% income tax. So compare with that's another reason, compare with property. If you live there for 3 years, there's no capital gain tax. If you're investing for 10 years, there's no capital gain tax. So I think that's awesome. Well, that's pretty much today my property talk about German property. And I hope you like it. If you have, let me have a check, any questions? Okay, not many questions today. So if you, my English program, if you didn't catch up with my live streaming, you can go later for the video. And if you like my program, please share, please like, and most importantly, please subscribe to my channel. Also, you can just give me some comments, and you can find my contacts on Facebook, and also I've got a that's mainly Chinese Telegram group. So send me some comments, and we can discuss more. Okay, today Lily's property talk. That's I'll just finish here. I thank you very much, and I'll see you again in a week or two. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.